What a head, son! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you through my wildcard draft for the upcoming Game Week 7. So wildcard week is fully in swing, and in this video I'll be detailing my first wildcard draft as we approach that deadline in a few days' time. So this draft might change, but I'm pretty happy with the overall structure and the overall template. And as always, I'll be discussing my selection, going player by player, and detailing why I've included them. Now, if you guys are also on the chip, don't worry, you don't have to go for this specific draft. Comment down below what your draft looks like, and it might even be better than the one I'm going to show you guys on screen right now. But if you guys want to see which starting 11 and bench I'm going to be going with for the Game Week 7 wildcard, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So going on to the actual wildcard draft, and as always, I'll be going over the level of importance, not position by position, and basically build this team as I did in the transfer page. On the right hand side, 0.3 left in the bank, so you guys might still be able to afford this, even if you have less team value than me. But there have been a few drafts I've created with 0.0 in the bank, so money is quite tight. So there are a few formations that you guys can target, but as you guys can see, I've gone for a 3-5-2, targeting that depth in midfield. So let's get on to who the actual players I selected, starting off with the main man up front, Erling Haaland, with the Camsey armband for Game Week 7. So no, I'm not one of those managers going without the Norwegian, don't really have the courage to do that, and in my opinion, with this Man City sea of green, he's probably the most essential option. So basically a perma captain for the next few game weeks, as he has been pretty much for the opening game weeks, so he's going nowhere in my wildcard draft. Now the next selection that I'm going to heavily be targeting is going to be Saka in the midfield department. He's not our most expensive midfielder, but he is the most essential one. I just believe the Southampton game has to be targeted. If you guys saw what Bournemouth did last night, I expect Arsenal to do the same. Just monitoring the game coming up later against PSG though. So yes, I do prefer Saka over someone like a Salah and a Palmer. Even when the fixtures do get slightly tougher, I still expect Arsenal to score goals against those teams. Just like the attack, also be going for Gabriel as my most essential defender. I feel like the clean sheet chance is pretty high for Game Week 7 and Game Week 8. And because that defense is pretty secure over those next few fixtures that are tougher, they could always keep clean sheets. Also has shown his attacking threat and his superiority in that regard compared to Saliba, so he's a lock at the moment in my team. So these three have been in most of my wildcard drafts, if not all of them, and they form my most essential players. Now the next player I want to talk about is going to be probably the one that's going to change between my drafts, and that's Cole Palmer. So at the moment in this team, I'll be showcasing a draft with Cole Palmer, but in tomorrow's team selection, I'll be detailing a draft without him that I might actually go for. He's a very kind of, as I said, controversial one because the fixtures don't look great, but he's a great player, so could always score points in these tougher games. Now against Forest in Game Week 7, that's a pretty strong fixture, even though they have been defensively quite secure this season. Might be slightly kind of points chasing after 4 goals in Game Week 6, but I kind of feel on a wildcard if I don't go for him, might be a wasted opportunity. I don't know what you guys are thinking in your own kind of teams. If you weren't on the wildcard, are you trying to bring Cole Palmer in? Probably not, with a tougher run of fixtures starting soon. But as mentioned in this wildcard draft, I'll be going for him. Is quite expensive though, so cuts in other departments has to happen. The next essential play in my opinion is going to be Mbumo, comes in at a cheaper price tag and therefore is quite essential. Just the main talisman at Brentford at the moment. So good fixtures on the horizon as well for Brentford, and therefore he's a no-brainer. I even brought him in on free transfers last game week. With kind of Saka, Palmer and Haaland are almost 3 premiums, Mbumo's a great asset as he comes in at a mid-priced range. Now the next big question mark about any wildcard draft is going to be what to do with the Arsenal triple up if you even go for 3 Arsenal players. And the reason behind this is that probably the time to bring in a triple up was last game week with that Leicester fixture. As you guys know, didn't end up performing that well in terms of the main options. So with Southampton and Bournemouth next week before a tough run of fixtures, should you be going for a triple up? I personally think that you guys can with a Southampton at home game, as that could be a massive scoring fixture. However, I do favour it more from an attacking point of view to a defensive one, and therefore let's start on our 4.5 keep at the moment. So no Raya is going to be no defensive double up. I've gone for Flecken at 4.5. Now in this kind of bracket, not many kind of standouts at the moment. Flecken has some good fixtures, but Brentford haven't been great defensively. But I guess neither of any other 4.5 teams. The one thing I was contemplating actually was with that 0.3 in the bank, I could upgrade Flecken to Pickford if that is an upgrade, as Everton's fixture run is also pretty decent. That is probably hoping that the incorporation of a Branthwaite back from injury is going to secure them, which might be quite a long ask as they haven't been great defensively. Just want to put that out there if you guys are looking for potential upgrades with money in the bank, but at the moment Flecken's going to be with his second in charge on the bench. So that does mean, therefore, I have not gone for Raya, who I think is the best Arsenal kind of double up if you want to go there, and I made a few drafts with him between the sticks. Another defender that I think is probably quite essential is going to be someone like a Guardiola or a Man City defender. You'll probably notice by now I haven't gone for Trent Alexander-Arnold. That's a pretty big talking point. I just believe with the kind of Crystal Palace game you want him, but after that, can't see many clean sheets. Even though Trent is quite attacking, I've decided to save the funds, about 1.1 million, and go for Guardiola. With Haaland, I spoke about that kind of sea of green that Man City are anticipating. Just have to hope that your Man City assets start though. So for me, Guardiola is probably the best kind of Man City defender to get at the moment. Has attacking threat and defensive threat, and also just an absolute baller. So these two kind of cement your defense at the moment. Man City and Arsenal are where you want to go. If you can fit in a Trent, I probably would go for him, but I need to save some funds. Now talking about kind of saving funds, another more essential play in the midfield department is going to be Rodgers from Aston Villa. Don't worry about that speculated injury on the weekend, he trained yesterday. Aston Villa also have a pretty tough game against Bayern Munich coming up in the Champions League, so let's see if Rodgers comes out of that injury free. But on the topic of kind of saving money, he's great kind of value at his price tag, and Aston Villa fixtures aren't even that bad at the moment. Then I've decided to go for the triple up with Man City, which I probably would suggest you guys do as well on the wildcard, with such lovely fixtures coming up. So I'll be going for a double up in defense with Rico Lewis at 4.7 million, once again just hoping that he plays the majority of games. Seems like he is quite likely to play the majority of games with this Rodri injury, although the performance on the weekend wasn't the best, but I still feel pretty confident on a few starts. Man City also played tonight, but it might be a heavily rotated squad against an easier opposition, but let's just see what Pep kind of goes with. So I know that Man City aren't the kind of most secure clean sheet team. With Edison between the sticks, I don't really think that you can be, but surely they get a few clean sheets over this last round of fixtures. Now the last two slots are really where some variation could happen for my own kind of team, but let's complete the Arsenal triple up with Havertz. Now I mentioned this, but I think that Southampton game has to be targeted, especially from an attacking point of view. You can see Arsenal scoring a few goals here. Now there might be some concerns about potential rotation with this game being between two Champions League fixtures, but I doubt that Arteta rotates as much as he probably prioritizes the Premier League. But still, massive game tonight against PSG for Arsenal, so all eyes are going to be there. But I'm pretty sure Havertz will start on the weekend. So with Havertz's more expensive price tag, about 8.4 million, I had to go for a cheaper last midfielder, and that's McNeil from Everton. Now might also be points chasing after a pretty respectable game week 6, but Everton's fixtures are also looking pretty strong. Now between him and Calvert-Lewin, you probably would prioritize Calvert-Lewin, but I didn't have the funds, and therefore McNeil's going to be here. It's still a pretty strong selection with some great fixtures coming up, and he is very involved in that Everton team, set pieces as well as attacking threat. But as mentioned, this combination could have some variation, and I'll showcase one fairly shortly. Let's just go over the bench to complete the team. So with Rico Lewis and Guardiola, you do want some bench coverage, and therefore Mikalenko is going to come in here at 4.3 million. Like McNeil, Everton have great fixtures. Then Greaves at 4.0 might be the best kind of option at the cheaper price tag, but as you would have seen yesterday, Howard Bale scored for Southampton. Don't you know who I trust more from a defensive point of view, Ipswich or Southampton? Just kind of want a play that's guaranteed to start though. Then finally, Chikowomi is going to come in as our 4.5 forward. Never really liked this slot as no one really plays. I just went for a Wolves asset as I don't want to complete my triple up with a 4.5 forward. So you guys can literally go for anyone, but I would probably suggest the team that is quite lowly owned, as well as the player as you don't want them to drop in price. So this cheap bench does complete itself. With the 0.3 in the bank, you can upgrade Mikalenko if you want to, but I'll probably just save the value as he is pretty nailed. Now if you guys had more money in the bank, you could always upgrade a McNeil if you wanted. If you had a lot of money in the bank, you could go for someone like a Trent in the defensive department, but 0.3 doesn't offer me much flexibility. I want to just discuss though a potential change that I did go over, and that's going to be for those two final slots, the 5th midfielder and the 2nd forward. So if we do go without Havertz and McNeil, we can actually split the funds and go for Dom Solanke as well as Johnson. Both the Spurs options come in with 0.0 in the bank. Now the kind of question mark here might be going for, do you go for Havertz for Southampton at home and Bournemouth away, or Dom Solanke for Brighton away and West Ham at home? I'd probably do this switch in 2 game weeks anyways, so might as well just not bank the transfer, but I do want to target that Southampton game. Then with Johnson just being a great asset, but I guess McNeil is also pretty decent. Do worry about some rotation with Johnson, as he has been sub fairly early in most games. Now between him and Kulusevski, not much between them. Just prefer Johnson as he's playing slightly more forward, but if you can't afford him, Kulusevski is perfectly fine. This combination does split the funds slightly more and might be slightly more attractive. You guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. So between this and the Havertz draft is going to be kind of my first draft selection. All eyes tomorrow on the team selection, where I do detail a draft without Cole Palmer, which might not be as popular as this one. If you guys also on the wildcard chip, detail below what your current team looks like. Might actually get some inspiration from some of you. You can also join the Discord server to continue the conversation about the wildcard, or follow me over on Twitter, both links in the description. This is basically a wrap for the video, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you didn't subscribe if you have subscribed yet. Tons of content coming up with wildcard week still to continue, so make sure notifications are turned on. But for the time being, I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.